So let's start with our game that we had. We saw the number one team in the country, and they get the job done. The whole thought with Ohio State and the whole message that we kept hearing was faster start, faster start, faster start. They did that. I mean, they got Marvin Harrison Jr. the football for the first touchdown. They got Travion Henderson the football. They got Cade Stover back. He got the football. They targeted Emeka Ibuka on that first drive down the field, and they just start fast, and they didn't really give it up from there.
No, they didn't. And I made this point during the course of the game. That's the best, to me, that's the best Kyle McCord has looked. I mean, from start to finish. I mean, he was solid. He was accurate. He was decisive. He had good footwork. And he did a great job of distributing the football. And you can see as this team gets healthier on offense, how much more explosive they can be. Travion Henderson makes a tremendous difference to their running game. I still don't think it's a great offensive line, but they're much better because of Travion Henderson. They did a good job of protecting Kyle McCord against a pretty stout defensive front of Michigan State. Ibuka is not quite back, but maybe by the Ohio State-Michigan game, he will be. Cade Stover still has the brace, but he looked good, made a couple nice plays in that ball game. So they looked much better offensively, much more well-balanced. Defensively, they're missing a couple guys in that game, but they still played the way they typically play, and keep teams at bay and don't give up big plays. So they're a really good football team that I think Ryan Day has them playing their best football here in the month of November.
You mentioned it. I just want to ask you this one thing about Ohio State defensively before we move on to the Michigan-Penn State game. Because you mentioned it a lot during the broadcast, and you're right. They're not a high turnover team. They're not going to force those crazy plays, those game-changing plays, but they don't give up big plays. They just keep you in front. And I'm curious, in a game like Michigan, which, again, we're all looking towards next week more than anything because of how much meaning it's going to have, again, based on where these two teams are. But in a game like that, or a game that you could be in the college football playoff, do you need more of those type of game-breaking, game-changing, momentum-shifting plays that they don't quite get as much as some of the other top teams?
Well, I mean, sometimes takeaways, they come in flurries, Now they have not created takeaways, but a lot of times, it's just the way the ball bounces. Maybe they're in position, getting their hands on balls, just not able to come down with interceptions. They haven't forced a lot of fumbles. So it's hard to say. I do think even though they don't have a lot of sacks, they do have consistent pressure. It's not like the quarterbacks that they're facing are very comfortable in the pocket because they're only completing 49% of their passes against this defense. So they're getting pressure. They've got good coverage. All three levels of the defense are in sync and playing coordinated. So they don't have the sacks, but they do have the pressures. They don't have the picks or the fumbles, but they are preventing big plays. And that's, at the end of the day, explosive plays and turnovers are what kind of change games. So they don't have the turnovers or the takeaways, but they are eliminating and holding to a minimum the big plays. And really, that's the secret to Iowa's success too. I mean, their defense is kind of a bend but don't break, but they don't give up big plays. And they just force you to earn everything that you get.
It's been really impressive to watch. Everybody in that Ohio State defense it seems like they do their job perfectly every single play. And everybody knows their role, and everybody knows where everyone else is supposed to be. And that's a credit to Jim Knowles in year 2 and kind of installing that system the right way and the leaders that they have. And even you mentioned not having some big names. Tommy Eichenberg, maybe the biggest one that they didn't have last week, their captain, middle linebacker. And yet Cody Simon steps in and he plays perfectly in his absence. So they do have
two starting safeties. They're out. They're two starting safeties who both have been having really good years. Josh Proctor and Lathan Ransom have been playing really, really good. So, they're a very impressive football team right now.
Yeah, and so they might not have the sheer depth numbers that a Michigan has defensively, but they still have guys. And even when one guy goes down, they still have guys to spell them. So